Before we enter Area 51, do me a favor. Look in the mirror. Does your face look exactly right? Or does something feel slightly off? If this story makes you question your own reality, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me if you've ever felt like you weren't quite yourself. Subscribe for more real military encounters with things that shouldn't exist. Now, let's talk about the others. I am David Corporal Michael Williams. I have served as an explosives expert in the Army Commandos for over 8 years. I am going to say something that will make you question everything about your own identity. About whether the person you see in the mirror is really you. About whether the memories in your mind are actually yours or not. Because I've been to Area 51. I've seen what the government has been hiding since 1954. And I'm no longer certain that I'm the real Marcus Williams. I might be someone, something else. A perfect copy from another dimension who thinks he's real, who has Marcus Williams' memories and believes them completely, who looks in the mirror and sees Marcus Williams staring back. But something feels wrong. Small things. The way coffee tastes, the way my handwriting looks, the micro-expressions I see in photographs from before the mission. They don't quite match what I remember, what I think I remember. And if I'm not real, if I'm an other who replaced the real Williams, would I even know? This is what happened in November 2023. Or at least what I remember happening. What the memories in my head tell me happened. Whether those memories are mine or just copied from someone else. I can't be sure anymore. 8 Army Rangers were deployed to Area 51. Classified mission. Emergency response to what we were told was a containment breach. No other details. Just orders to report to Groom Lake Air Force Base in Nevada with full tactical gear and prepare for hostile contact. The team was small but experienced. Staff Sergeant Robert Johnson, our leader, 38 years old. 2 tours in Afghanistan, steady, reliable. Corporal Lisa Martinez, 30, our medic and the most competent field surgeon I'd ever met. Private David Chen, 26, our communications specialist. Private Sarah Shaw, 24, sharpshooter and reconnaissance. Corporal James Reeves, 29, weapons specialist. Private Kyle Thompson, 27, my closest friend and a damn good ranger. Private Daniel Jackson, 25, our newest member fresh from Ranger School. And me, 8 Rangers, well-trained, experienced, trusting each other with our lives. That trust would be our downfall. We flew into Groom Lake on a black helicopter. No markings. Pilots who didn't speak to us. Landing at night so we couldn't see the full layout of Area 51. Standard operational security for classified facilities. We were met by Dr. Elena Vasquez, 52 years old. Quantum physicist. She looked exhausted, scared, like she'd been living in a nightmare for too long. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her voice shook slightly. "I need to brief you before we enter the facility. What you're about to face, it's not what you've trained for. It's not anything anyone has trained for." Johnson stepped forward. "Ma'am, we were told there's a containment breach. What exactly are we containing?" Vasquez looked at each of us, like she was memorizing our faces, or checking for something. In 1954, Area 51 conducted an experiment. Classified above top secret, they were trying to create a controlled dimensional fold, based on theoretical physics that suggested our universe might have parallel versions. Mirror dimensions with slight variations. The Philadelphia experiment conspiracy, Chen said. Urban legend stuff. "Not a legend," Vasquez replied. "Very real, very classified. And in 1954, it worked. They opened a doorway, a breach between our dimension and a parallel one, for exactly 43 seconds before they shut it down. But that was enough. Enough for what? I asked. Enough for something to come through. Someone, a man named Robert Chen, Air Force technician working on the experiment. He came through the breach from the other side, from the mirror dimension, and he looked exactly like the Robert Chen who was working on our side, identical, perfect copy. Martinez frowned. How is that possible? Parallel dimensions aren't completely different realities. They're variations. Similar timelines with small divergences. In their dimension, Robert Chen existed, was working on the same experiment, came through when we opened the door. But here's what we learned over the next few weeks. The Robert Chen from the other dimension, he wasn't hostile. He didn't know he was from another dimension. He had Robert Chen's memories, his personality, his skills. He believed he was the real Robert Chen. So what happened to the original? Shaw asked. Vasquez's expression darkened. That's the problem. There can't be two versions of the same person in one dimension. Quantum mechanics won't allow it. When the other Robert Chen came through, the original Robert Chen disappeared. Just vanished. We think he was absorbed back into the dimensional fold. Replaced completely. Johnson held up a hand. Dr. Vasquez, what does a 70-year-old experiment have to do with our mission? Because the breach never fully closed. We thought we'd sealed it, but it's been leaking, slowly, for 69 years, and people have been coming through, others, from the mirror dimension, 1 or 2 a year at first, then more, and each time someone from the other side comes through, someone from our side disappears, gets replaced, and the replacement has no idea. They think they're real. They have the original's memories, personality, everything. But they're not. They're others. How many? I asked quietly. We don't know for certain. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They don't just appear at Area 51. The breach allows them to emerge anywhere within a certain radius. Las Vegas, surrounding towns. They come through, replace someone, and integrate into society. And nobody knows. Not even them. Chen was shaking his head. This is insane. You're telling us there are dimensional duplicates walking around and they don't even know they're fake? They're not fake, Vasquez corrected. They're real, just from a different dimension. But yes, and 3 days ago, something changed. The breach expanded, massively. We're detecting dozens of others coming through every hour. The facility is compromised. Staff members have been replaced. We can't tell who's real and who's another, and we need to close the breach permanently before it consumes both dimensions. How do we identify others? Johnson asked. If they're perfect copies with the same memories. Vasquez hesitated. That's the problem. Physically, they're identical. DNA matches, fingerprints match, retinal scans match. But behaviorally, there are subtle tells, micro-expressions that don't quite match, speech patterns slightly off, the uncanny valley effect. You'll feel something is wrong even if you can't articulate what. Trust your instincts. If someone feels off, they probably are. We descended into the facility, level by level. Area 51's true secret isn't above ground. It's below, 20 levels deep into the Nevada desert. Each level more classified than the last. And on level 18, the breach chamber. The dimensional fold that had been slowly leaking others into our world for 69 years. Level 1 was normal, standard military facility. Armed guards, security checkpoints, everything by the book. Level 3 is where we noticed the first problem. A security guard at the checkpoint. Name tag read Morrison. He processed our credentials, scanned our IDs, and something felt wrong. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Not in an unfriendly way, just off. Like he was remembering how to smile rather than actually smiling. His movements were too smooth, too precise, like someone consciously controlling each gesture. Martinez noticed too. I saw her watching Morrison carefully, her hand drifting toward her sidearm. "Everything checks out," Morrison said. His voice was flat, emotionless. "You're cleared for level 18. Dr. Vasquez will escort you." We moved past the checkpoint. Once we were out of earshot, Martinez spoke quietly. "That guard, Morrison. Something was wrong with him." "I felt it too," Shaw agreed. "The way he moved, like he was, I don't know, acting, playing a role." Vasquez nodded grimly. "Morrison was replaced 2 days ago. We know because the real Morrison had a specific scar on his left hand from a childhood accident. The current Morrison doesn't have it, but he has all of Morrison's memories, knows his job perfectly, behaves appropriately, except for those small tells, the uncanny valley effect." "Then why didn't you remove him?" Johnson demanded. "Because we don't know how many others are already inside the facility. If we start detaining everyone who seems slightly off, we might trigger a mass response. We're trying to get to the breach first, close it, then deal with the others who've already come through." We continued descending. Level 5, Level 8, Level 12. Each level, we noticed more staff members who seemed wrong. A scientist whose laugh sounded forced. A technician who blinked too frequently. A maintenance worker whose walk was too precise. How many had been replaced? How long had this been happening? And worse, how could we be sure we hadn't been replaced before we even arrived? On level 15, we found the first body, Dr. Richard Cole, age 47, senior physicist. Vasquez knew him, had worked with him for 20 years. His body was hidden in a storage closet, no visible injuries, no wounds, just dead. And his face, his expression was one of absolute terror, like he'd seen something that broke his mind in the moment before death. "This is how others replace people," Vasquez explained, her voice breaking. "Physical contact. They touch you, and there's a dimensional energy transfer. Your consciousness gets pulled into their dimension while theirs comes into ours. You cease to exist here, and they take your place. It's instant, painless physically. But Cole's expression, I think for a moment you're aware of what's happening, that you're being erased, replaced." Martinez examined the body. No defensive wounds. He didn't fight, didn't see it coming. "That's the danger," Vasquez said. "Others look exactly like people you know. You don't suspect them, don't defend yourself. They get close, touch you, and you're gone. Replaced by a version of you from another dimension who thinks they're real." We reached level 16. The lights flickered. Emergency power. Something had damaged the main electrical systems. And that's when Martinez did something strange. We were checking a corridor, standard formation. Martinez was supposed to be behind me, but I turned around and she was gone, just vanished. No sound, no struggle, just absent. "Martinez," Johnson called out. She emerged from a side room 10 seconds later. "Sorry, thought I heard something. False alarm." But her voice sounded different. Just slightly, the inflection was off, and her eyes, they looked at us with an expression I'd never seen on Martinez before. Like she was seeing us for the first time. Learning us. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine. Why wouldn't I be?" She smiled, too wide, too perfect. The real Martinez never smiled like that. I looked at Thompson. He'd noticed too. His hand was on his weapon. Ready. But what could we do? Martinez looked like Martinez, sounded like Martinez, had her weapons, her gear, her ID. If we accused her of being an other, how would we prove it? And if we were wrong, we'd have just accused a teammate of being a dimensional duplicate based on a feeling. So we said nothing. But everyone was watching Martinez now. Carefully. Suspiciously. And Martinez was watching us the same way, like she wasn't sure who to trust either. We continued to level 17, one level above the breach chamber. The air felt heavy here. Wrong. Like reality was thinner, like the walls between dimensions were wearing down. Johnson gathered us together. Listen up, we're one level away from the breach. Dr. Vasquez says others are coming through constantly now, dozens per hour. We need to secure the breach chamber, protect Vasquez while she closes the fold, and extract. Stay alert, trust your instincts, and if someone seems wrong— He paused, looked at each of us, including Martinez. Use your judgment. We started descending the final stairwell to level 18, and Chen asked a question that made everyone stop. How do we know we're real? What if some of us were replaced before we even got on the helicopter? What if others have been integrating into the military for years? What if one of us is an other and doesn't even know it? Silence. Because he was right. If others had perfect memories, if they believed they were real, if there was no way to test, how could any of us be sure we were who we thought we were? I looked at my hands. They looked like my hands. The scar on my right thumb from a training accident in 2019. The calluses from years of handling weapons. Everything matched my memories. But if I was an other, wouldn't I have those same memories? Wouldn't I remember that training accident even though it never happened to me? Wouldn't I look at these hands and think they were mine? Stay focused, Johnson ordered. But I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. He was questioning himself too. We reached level 18. The breach chamber door was ahead. Massive. Reinforced, with warnings in multiple languages. And beyond it, the fold. The tear between dimensions. The doorway that had been leaking others into our world since 1954. Vasquez entered her access codes. The door began to open, slowly, revealing a chamber beyond that seemed to shimmer. Like reality was unstable, like we were looking at space that wasn't quite in our dimension anymore. And standing in the chamber, watching us with empty eyes, were 12 people. Area 51 staff, scientists, security personnel, all replaced, all others now. All perfect copies of people who no longer existed. They didn't attack, didn't speak, just stared, waiting, learning, deciding. And one of them looked exactly like Johnson. I turned. Johnson was standing next to me, but Johnson was also in the chamber. 2 identical people. Same face, same build, same uniform, same everything. Which one was real? Which one was the other? Both Johnsons spoke at the same time. Shoot the other. They both pointed at each other. We raised our weapons. But who did we aim at? The Johnson next to us we'd been with all day? Or the Johnson in the chamber we'd just discovered? And that's when the real paranoia began. Because if there could be 2 Johnsons, could there be 2 of anyone? Could there be 2 of me? I looked down at my hands again, and for just a moment they didn't look quite right. Like they belonged to someone else. Like I was wearing someone else's body. And I wondered, am I Marcus Williams, or am I the other who replaced him? And would I even know the difference? 2 Johnsons. Both identical. Both claiming to be real. Both pointing at the other and calling them another. We stood in the corridor outside the breach chamber with our weapons raised. But who did we shoot? The Johnson who'd led us down through 17 levels, or the Johnson standing in the chamber with 11 other others? It's not me, the Johnson beside us said. His voice was steady, familiar, the same tone he always used. I've been with you this whole time. That thing in the chamber is trying to confuse you. He's lying, the Johnson in the chamber said. His voice was also steady, also familiar, exactly the same. I was separated from the group on level 12. Don't you remember? I went to check that side corridor. That's when it replaced me. The one next to you is the other. And that was the problem. I did remember Johnson checking a side corridor on level 12. He'd been gone for maybe 30 seconds, just long enough for another to make contact, to replace him. But I also remembered Johnson being with us the entire time after that, giving orders, making decisions, being Johnson. If he'd been replaced on level 12, had I really spent the last 6 levels following an other who thought it was Johnson? Or was the Johnson in the chamber lying, trying to sow confusion? Dr. Vasquez, Shaw said, without taking her eyes off either Johnson, you said you have ways to identify others. Test them, both of them. Vasquez pulled out a tablet. I can run a dimensional frequency scan. It measures quantum signatures. Others carry trace-dimensional energy from crossing through the breach. It's subtle, but detectable. She approached the Johnson next to us, held up the tablet, ran the scan, the device beeped. Numbers scrolled across the screen. Negative, Vasquez said. No dimensional signature. According to this, he's human, from our dimension. The Johnson next to us relaxed slightly. See? I told you, I'm real. Shoot the one in the chamber. But then Vasquez scanned the Johnson in the chamber. Same procedure, same device, and the result was negative. No dimensional signature. He's also reading as human from our dimension. Both Johnsons were testing as real. That's impossible, Martinez said. But her voice was still wrong. Still had that slight inflection difference. How can both be real? They can't, Vasquez replied. She looked genuinely confused, scared. Unless, she stared at her tablet, unless others don't carry dimensional signatures after enough time. If the Johnson on level 12 was replaced early enough, the dimensional energy might have dissipated. Or the test doesn't work. Or one of them has found a way to fake the results. So the test is useless, Reeves said flatly. Or one Johnson is an other who's been here long enough to pass as human. Or, Vasquez's face went pale. Or the test was never accurate. I might have been lied to about what it detects by people who were already others when they briefed me. Chen summed up what we were all thinking. We have no way to tell who's real. The Johnson next to us made a decision. He raised his weapon, aimed at the Johnson in the chamber. I'm making the call. That's another. It's trying to divide us, make us doubt ourselves. I'm eliminating the threat. Wait, I started. Johnson fired. 3 rounds, center mass. The Johnson in the chamber went down, blood spreading across his uniform. The same uniform we were all wearing. The same face going slack in death. And I felt sick. Because what if that had been the real Johnson? What if we'd just murdered our team leader based on a guess? The other 11 others in the chamber didn't react, didn't attack, didn't defend their fallen companion, just kept staring at us with empty, learning eyes. Secure the chamber, Johnson ordered. The Johnson who was still alive, the one we had to believe was real because the alternative was unthinkable. We moved into the breach chamber. It was massive, 50 feet across, and in the center, suspended in the air, was something that hurt to look at. A fold in space, a tear. Reality peeling back to reveal something underneath. Something that shimmered with colors that didn't exist in our dimension. The breach, the doorway between worlds, and it was growing, expanding, consuming more space every second. The 11 others retreated as we entered, backing away from us, not threatening, not attacking, just observing, like they were still learning how to be human, how to react, what to do. "Why aren't they fighting?" Thompson asked. "Because they're not hostile," Vasquez explained. "They don't want to hurt us. They just want to exist, to be real. They're people from another dimension who accidentally crossed over. They're scared, confused, trying to understand where they are." "Then why are they replacing people?" Shaw demanded. "Why kill and take someone's place? They don't see it as killing. In their dimension, they're still alive. They just moved, crossed over. And the quantum mechanics of the universe won't allow two versions of the same person in one dimension. So when they arrive, the original has to go. It's not malicious. It's just physics." "That doesn't make it better," Martinez said. Her voice was still off, still wrong. And I wondered again, was Martinez replaced on level 16? Was the real Martinez already gone, absorbed into another dimension while this other took her place? Vasquez approached a control panel near the breach, started entering commands. "I can close this, seal the fold permanently, but I need 20 minutes to initialize the collapse sequence, and others are still coming through. Look." She pointed at the breach, and I saw them, figures emerging from the fold, stepping through from the mirror dimension into ours. A woman in a lab coat, a security guard, a maintenance worker. All of them looked confused, disoriented, looking around the chamber like they didn't understand how they got here. And somewhere in our dimension, their counterparts had just vanished, replaced, gone. "We hold this position for 20 minutes, Johnson ordered. "Nobody gets past us. Nobody leaves this chamber until the breach is closed." The others, already in the chamber, were still watching, and one of them, the woman in the lab coat, spoke. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "I don't understand. Where am I? This looks like the lab, but it's wrong. The colors are wrong. Everything feels wrong." She looked down at her hands. "I feel wrong." Vasquez's expression was anguished. "You're in a parallel dimension. You came through the breach. You're an other now." "But I was working on the dimensional fold experiment in 1954, and then there was a flash of light and—" The woman's eyes widened with horror. "Oh God, I came through. I replaced someone. There's another me somewhere. Was another me, and she's gone. I killed her just by existing." She started crying, and it was the most human thing I'd seen since entering Area 51. Another from another dimension, mourning the person she'd inadvertently erased from reality. "They're people," Chen said quietly. "Not monsters. Just people who crossed over by accident. People who replaced our people," Reeves countered. "Killed them, even if they didn't mean to." The debate was cut short by gunfire. Behind us, in the corridor, automatic weapons. Someone was shooting, but at who and why? Johnson spun around. "Sit rep, who's firing?" Chen checked his comm. It's the Rangers we left on level 15. Security detail. They're engaged with themselves? They're reporting contact with duplicates, with others wearing Ranger uniforms." My stomach dropped. How many Rangers were on level 15? 12 plus us 8, 20 total. And how many others could look like Rangers? Chen's face went pale. "We don't know. If they've been integrating into the military, there could be dozens, hundreds, all looking exactly like real soldiers." The gunfire intensified, then stopped. Abruptly, silence. Chen tried to raise the level 15 team on comms. "Bravo team, report. Bravo team, respond." Static, then a voice. "Sergeant Wilson from Bravo team. Chen, is that you?" Confirmed. Wilson, what's your status? I think we're okay. We engaged others wearing our uniforms, killed 4 of them. But Chen, Wilson's voice broke. I shot Patterson. I thought he was another. But after he was down, I checked his ID, his personal effects, photos of his family. And I think I might have just murdered the real Patterson. Killed my own teammate because I couldn't tell the difference. Nobody spoke, because we all understood. In the chaos of fighting others who looked exactly like your friends, how could you know who to shoot? Every kill might be murder. Every hesitation might be fatal. Fall back to level 16, Johnson ordered. Secure that position. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary. Copy. Falling back. Sir, how do we know you're the real Johnson? How do you know I'm the real Wilson? We don't. Johnson closed the comm. That's when things fell apart completely. Martinez moved, fast. She grabbed Vasquez from behind, pulled her away from the control panel, held a knife to her throat. Martinez, what are you doing? I shouted. She's an other, Martinez said. Her voice was different now, colder, more certain. Vasquez, she's been another since before we arrived. Think about it. She knew too much. Explained everything too perfectly. An other who's been here for years would have time to learn, to understand, to manipulate us. That's insane, Shaw said. Vasquez brought us here to close the breach. Why would an other do that? To trap us, to isolate us in this chamber where others can replace us one by one. Haven't you noticed? We keep getting separated. One person disappears for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, just long enough to be replaced. And when they come back, they seem slightly off. But we ignore it, make excuses, because we want to believe they're real. I looked around, at our team, at the people I'd served with, trusted with my life. And I didn't know anymore. Didn't know who was real and who was other. Martinez, lower the knife, Johnson ordered. Prove you're real first, Martinez demanded. Prove you're not the other who replaced Johnson on level 12. Prove any of us are real. We can't, Thompson said quietly. That's the point. There's no way to prove it. We just have to trust each other. Trust? Martinez laughed, bitter. How can I trust when I don't even trust myself? When I look in the mirror and my face looks wrong? When my memories feel like they belong to someone else? And that's when I understood. Martinez wasn't wrong. Martinez was having the same crisis I was having. The same doubt, the same existential terror of not knowing if the thoughts in her head were really hers or just perfectly copied memories from someone else's life. Vasquez spoke calmly despite the knife at her throat. Martinez, listen to me. You're real. The doubt you're feeling, that's proof. Others don't doubt themselves. They believe completely that they're real. The fact that you're questioning means you're you. The real you. Or, Martinez countered, an other who's smart enough to fake doubt, to pretend to be uncertain to avoid suspicion. Reeves aimed his weapon at Martinez. Let Vasquez go. Now. Shoot me, and you prove my point. That we're killing each other based on suspicion, paranoia, fear. Exactly what others would want. Divide and conquer without throwing a single punch. Johnson raised his hand. Everyone, lower your weapons. We're not shooting each other. We're going to... He stopped. Looked down. Blood was spreading across his chest. A knife protruding from his back. Chen was standing behind him, holding the knife. His expression was blank. I'm sorry, but you were replaced on level 12. I saw it happen. Saw the other touch you, saw your eyes change. You've been an other this entire time, leading us, directing us. and I couldn't let you continue." Johnson collapsed, dying, looking up at Chen with betrayal and confusion. "Chen, it's me. I'm real." That's what an other would say. Chen's voice was cold, certain. The voice of someone who'd made a decision and wouldn't doubt it. But had he? Had Johnson really been replaced? Or had Chen just murdered our team leader based on paranoia? And suddenly, we were all aiming weapons at each other. Martinez holding Vasquez, Reeves aiming at Martinez, Shaw aiming at Chen, Thompson aiming at Reeves, me standing in the middle trying to figure out who was real and who wasn't. "Everybody stop," I shouted. "This is exactly what they want. For us to kill each other, to destroy ourselves." "Maybe," Shaw said. Her gun was shaking. "Or maybe some of us really are others. Maybe you're another, Williams. How would we know? How would you know?" And I had no answer. Because she was right. How would I know? If I was another with Marcus Williams' memories, I'd believe I was Marcus Williams. I'd look at my hands and see my hands. I'd remember my childhood, my training, my deployments. All of it perfectly copied. All of it completely false. But it would feel real. The breach pulsed, expanded, more others emerging, and we were too busy pointing guns at each other to notice. "Vasquez," I said. "The collapse sequence, how long?" 15 minutes remaining. But I need to be at that control panel to monitor it. If Martinez doesn't release me..." Martinez threw Vasquez towards the panel. "Fine. Close it. Close the breach. Trap the others on their side. But when this is over, we're testing everyone, and whoever's another dies." Vasquez returned to work, her hands shaking as she entered commands, and Johnson, the real Johnson, or other Johnson, we'd never know now, bled out on the floor. His last words were, "Chen." Why? Chen didn't answer, just stood over the body, convinced he'd killed another, or terrified he'd murdered his commanding officer. We'd descended into level 18 as a team, 8 Rangers trusting each other. But trust was gone now, destroyed by doubt, by the impossibility of knowing who was real, by the paranoia of realizing any of us could be others and we'd never know. And the worst part, we were probably right. Some of us weren't real, had been replaced without knowing, walking around thinking we were ourselves while the real versions were already gone. But which ones? And would we ever be certain? We stood in the breach chamber with weapons pointed at each other, Johnson's body on the floor, Chen standing over it with blood on his hands, Martinez, Reeves, Shaw, Thompson, and me all watching each other with suspicion and fear, and Vasquez at the control panel, desperately trying to close a dimensional fold while we fell apart. The breach pulsed again, brighter, larger. Reality itself seemed to ripple, and more others emerged, not in ones or twos now, in groups, dozens, flooding through from the mirror dimension. They looked confused, disoriented, looking around the chamber with expressions of dawning horror as they realized what they'd done, where they were, what they'd become. And somewhere in our dimension, their counterparts had just ceased to exist. Replaced, erased, gone. "How long, Vasquez?" I called out. 10 minutes. The collapse sequence is running, but... Williams... She looked at the breach, at the flood of others still coming through. It's expanding faster than I can close it. Every other that crosses pulls more dimensional energy through, creates a feedback loop. At this rate, the breach will be fully open in 8 minutes. And if that happens, what happens? Shaw demanded. Both dimensions merge, collapse into each other. Every person will meet their other. And the quantum impossibility of 2 identical beings in the same space. She didn't finish. Didn't have to. Mutual annihilation, Chen said quietly. Like matter and antimatter, both dimensions destroyed. So we have to stop others from coming through, Reeves said. For the next 10 minutes, stop them all. They're not attacking, Thompson pointed out. They're just existing, trying to understand where they are. Doesn't matter, Martinez snapped. Each one that crosses makes the breach worse. We have to kill them, all of them. They're people, I shouted. Confused, terrified people who didn't ask to cross over. They're copies, replacements, dimensional parasites. And if we don't stop them, both dimensions die. The others in the chamber were backing away, some of them crying, some pleading. Please, we don't understand. We just want to go home. We didn't mean to. Reeves opened fire, not at the pleading others, at all of us. His weapon sprang across the chamber, hitting Shaw in the shoulder, Chen in the leg, missing me by inches. Reeves, what the fuck? Thompson tackled him. They went down, wrestling for the weapon. He's another! Reeves was screaming. Thompson is another. I saw him, on level 14. He disappeared into a side room. When he came back, his eyes were different. He's been an other since level 14. I'm real, Thompson shouted back. I'm Marcus's friend. We've known each other for 3 years. I'm real. But was he? Had Thompson been replaced on level 14? I tried to remember. Thompson had checked a room. Been gone maybe 20 seconds. Had his eyes looked different after? Had his voice changed? I couldn't remember. Couldn't separate real memory from paranoid reconstruction. Martinez aimed at both of them. Someone make a decision. Which one's real? I don't know, I admitted. I don't. The breach exploded, not literally, but dimensionally. It expanded rapidly, consuming half the chamber, and the flood of others increased, becoming a river. Dozens per second now. All of them stumbling through. All of them confused. All of them inadvertently destroying their counterparts just by existing. And in that chaos, I saw her, a woman who looked exactly like Vasquez, emerging from the breach. Staring at the Vasquez at the control panel, both Vasquez's locking eyes. No, our Vasquez whispered. No, that's impossible. I'm real. I've been here for 20 years. I have memories, a life. I'm not. The other Vasquez approached slowly. I have those same memories, that same life. And I'm just as certain I'm real. So which of us is? The tests failed. You said so yourself. There's no way to tell. We're both real, both fake, both existing in the same impossible space. Our Vasquez looked at her hands, at the control panel, at the 20 years of memories in her head. But if I'm not real, if I'm another who's been here since the 1954 breach, then everything I've done, everyone I've known, has it all been a lie? Or I'm the lie, the other Vasquez said. And you're real. Or we're both others. Or both real. Or the distinction doesn't matter because we're both conscious. Both aware. Both equally valid. And while they debated existential philosophy, the collapse sequence continued. 7 minutes remaining. The breach still expanding. Reality tearing at the seams. Reeves broke free from Thompson, grabbed his weapon, shot the other Vasquez, 3 rounds center mass. She went down, dead, just like that. Solved that problem, Reeves said coldly. Our Vasquez stared at the body, at herself lying dead on the floor. That could have been me, if I'd come through from the other side, if you'd seen me emerge. You would have shot me, and I would have died believing I was real. Are you real? Reeves demanded. I don't know anymore. Shaw was bleeding from her shoulder, Chen from his leg. Both wounds were bad but not fatal. Martinez was applying field dressings, but her movements were wrong. Too precise. Like she was remembering how to do it rather than knowing instinctively. Was Martinez another? Or was I just seeing things that weren't there? Creating false tells because I wanted an explanation for the wrongness I felt. Jackson, who'd been quiet this entire time, suddenly spoke. We're all others. Every single one of us, replaced at different points during the descent. The real team died on level 1. We're all dimensional copies who think we're real because we have their memories, and we're down here killing each other because others don't know how to work together. We're learning, simulating, playing at being rangers while the real rangers are already gone. That's insane, I said. But was it? How could I prove I wasn't replaced? How could any of us? 5 minutes, Vasquez announced. Her voice was hollow, like she no longer cared if she was real or not. The collapse sequence is nearly complete, but the breach is still growing. When they intersect, she pulled up a projection, showed us what would happen. Both dimensions folding into each other, every person meeting their other, billions of mutual annihilations, both universes ceasing to exist. Can you stop it? Thompson asked. Only one way. Someone has to go through the breach, manually destabilize it from the other side, create a quantum cascade that forces the fold to collapse. But whoever goes through, she didn't finish. Dies, Chen completed. Meets their other. Both versions annihilate each other. Or worse, Vasquez said. Gets trapped in the mirror dimension, alive, conscious, but in a reality that's slightly wrong, where colors don't look right, where food tastes different, where nothing feels correct. Forever. Silence, because that was a special kind of hell, being trapped in a dimension that was almost home. Almost right, but perpetually wrong. Living the rest of your life in the uncanny valley. I'll do it, Thompson said. I'll go through. I've been another since level 14 anyway. Reeves said so if I'm already fake, might as well do something real before I disappear. You're not an other, I protested. Reeves was paranoid. You're real. I know you're real. Do you? Or do you just want to believe I'm real because if I'm not, that means you've been following an other for the last 4 levels. That means you can't trust your own judgment, your own perceptions. He was right. I wanted Thompson to be real, needed him to be real, because if Thompson was another, then anyone could be, including me. Someone needs to stay and help, Thompson continued, to make sure the destabilization completes. 2 people, one to trigger the cascade, one to ensure it propagates. Both go through, both die or get trapped, but both dimensions survive. I'll go with you, I said. The words were out before I thought about them, but they were right. Someone had to, and if I was another, if I'd been replaced at some point without knowing, better to die being useful than to live forever uncertain. 3 minutes, Vasquez warned. The breach was massive now, consuming 3/4 of the chamber. Others were falling through so fast they couldn't stand up, piling on top of each other, a cascade of dimensional refugees who'd just destroyed their counterparts. Martinez grabbed my arm. Williams, wait. If you go through, if you're real, you'll die. And if there's any chance you're actually you, the real you, I can't let you do that. How do you know you're real enough to stop me? I asked. She released my arm. Because she didn't know. None of us knew. We were all operating on faith that we were who we thought we were. But faith isn't knowledge, and doubt had poisoned everything. Thompson and I moved toward the breach. Vasquez handed us a device. Quantum destabilizer. Trigger it when you're on the other side. It'll create a cascade reaction, force the dimensions to separate, close the fold permanently. "Will we survive?" Thompson asked. "I don't know. Maybe, if you're lucky, if the quantum mathematics work out. But probably not." "Good enough." We approached the breach. Reality rippled around it. Hurt to look at, hurt to exist near. Like being close to it was making us less real, less solid, less certain we existed at all. Behind us, gunfire erupted. Reeves shooting at others, or at Martinez, or at shadows, or at nothing. The paranoia had completely consumed him. Shaw was down. I hadn't seen her fall. Didn't know if others got her or if one of us shot her thinking she was an other. She wasn't moving. Chen was trying to stop Reeves. They were fighting, wrestling, and I couldn't tell if they were both real or both others or one of each. Jackson was gone, just vanished, maybe pulled through the breach, maybe replaced, maybe never real to begin with. Our team of 8 was down to 5, maybe, possibly fewer, depending on how many had been others all along. 2 minutes, Vasquez screamed. Thompson grabbed my hand. "Ready?" "No, but let's go anyway." We stepped toward the breach. The dimensional fold that had been leaking others into our world since 1954. The tear between realities that was about to consume both dimensions if we didn't stop it. And right before we crossed through, I saw something that made me stop. Reeves standing over Martinez's body, knife in his hand, blood dripping. And his face. His face was wrong. Eyes too wide, smile too perfect, movements too precise. Reeves had been an other all along. Probably since before the mission even started, integrated into the Rangers, waiting, learning. And when the chaos started, he'd used it to kill, to replace, to eliminate the real Rangers one by one. How many others were already in the military? How many in government? How many walking among us, perfectly integrated, waiting for opportunities to replace more of us? But there was no time to warn anyone. No time to explain. The breach was seconds from total collapse into merger. Thompson pulled me forward. "Williams, now!" We stepped through, and reality inverted. Colors shifted. Sounds distorted. Gravity felt wrong. Like we were moving through space that operated on different physics, different rules. The mirror dimension. And standing on the other side, waiting for us, were 2 people. Thompson and me, our others, our mirror dimension counterparts, looking at us with the same confusion we felt. Both versions thinking they were real, both versions having the same memories, the same thoughts, the same certainty of existence. And according to quantum mechanics, we couldn't both exist in the same space. One of us had to disappear. But which ones were the originals? Which ones were the copies? There was no way to tell. Thompson, my Thompson, the one I'd crossed with, raised the quantum destabilizer. "Sorry, other us, but our dimension needs to survive." He triggered it. The device pulsed. Reality screamed. The breach began collapsing, rapidly, violently, dimensions separating, the fold sealing. And in that moment, before everything went white, I looked at my other, the me from the mirror dimension, and he looked back. And we both knew the same truth. Neither of us would ever know which one was real. I woke up in a medical facility. White walls, bright lights, the smell of antiseptic and government bureaucracy. My head felt like it had been split open and poorly reassembled. A doctor was standing over me. Colonel Richards, according to his name tag. Military medical, high clearance. The kind of doctor who treats classified injuries with classified causes. "Sergeant Williams," he said. "Can you hear me?" Yeah, My voice sounded wrong, hoarse, like I'd been screaming. Had I been screaming, I couldn't remember. What happened? You closed the breach, you and Private Thompson. The dimensional fold collapsed. Both dimensions separated cleanly. You survived, against all odds. Thompson? He's in the next room, also recovering. You're both very lucky. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt wrong. Like I was wearing someone else's body. Like my thoughts were borrowed from someone else's brain. How long have I been out? 72 hours. We had to run extensive tests, make sure you weren't compromised. Compromised, a polite word for replaced by another. And, I asked, am I compromised? Richards smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Professional, practiced. All tests came back clean. You're human. From our dimension. No trace of dimensional energy. No quantum anomalies. As far as we can determine, you're Sergeant Marcus Williams, the real one. As far as they could determine. But we'd learned in that chamber that tests could fail, that others could pass for human, that there was no reliable way to identify dimensional copies. So how could I trust these results? How could I trust anything? The rest of the team? I asked. Richard's expression darkened. Of the 8 Rangers who entered Level 18, 2 survived, you and Thompson. The others... He paused. Staff Sergeant Johnson, deceased. Corporal Martinez, deceased. Private Chen, deceased. Private Shaw, deceased. Corporal Reeves, deceased. Private Jackson, missing. We never recovered his body. What about Vasquez? Dr. Vasquez survived the breach collapse. She's been debriefed, placed on administrative leave while we investigate the extent of other infiltration in Area 51. Preliminary estimates suggest 30 to 40% of S4 personnel had been replaced over the past 69 years. 69 years, since 1954. Almost 7 decades of others slowly integrating into one of America's most secure facilities. Learning, adapting, becoming indistinguishable from the people they replaced. And in the military, I asked, how many soldiers are others? That's classified above your pay grade, but... Richards leaned closer, lowered his voice. Between you and me, we don't know. Could be dozens, could be thousands. There's no way to identify them once they've integrated. They have the same training, the same memories, the same instincts. They are, for all practical purposes, the soldiers they replaced. Just from a different dimension. So, what do? We do nothing. We classify everything that happened. We never speak of dimensional folds, or others, or mirror universes. Officially, there was a containment breach at Area 51. Biological hazard. 8 Rangers responded. 6 died containing the threat. 2 survived. End of story. That's a lie. That's national security. If people knew that dimensional copies were walking among them, indistinguishable from the originals, society would collapse. Trust would disappear. Everyone would suspect everyone. It would be paranoia on a global scale. He was right. I'd seen what paranoia did to our team, how we'd turned on each other, killed each other, destroyed ourselves from within. And that was just 8 people. Imagine billions living with that same doubt, that same fear. So we pretend it never happened. We acknowledge it happened. We take precautions. We monitor Area 51 and surrounding regions for dimensional anomalies. We track behavioral changes in military personnel. But we don't tell the public. We don't create mass hysteria. We manage the threat quietly. And what about me? What about Thompson? How do we know we're real? Richards was quiet for a long moment. You don't. You passed our tests. But you know better than anyone that tests aren't perfect. You could be others who successfully integrated. Or you could be the real Williams and Thompson. Or the distinction might not matter because you have all their memories and training and will serve just as effectively either way. That's not an answer. That's the only answer I can give you. They released me 3 days later. Medical clearance. Psychological evaluation passed. Fit for duty. But I was reassigned, transferred to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Desk work, training duty. Nothing classified. Nothing that would expose me to sensitive operations. Because they didn't trust that I was real. Or they didn't want to risk me if I wasn't. Thompson was transferred to Fort Lewis in Washington. Different coast. Different command structure. They separated us, kept us from comparing notes, from reinforcing each other's doubts. I tried to return to normal life, followed orders, trained soldiers, went through the motions. But everything felt wrong. Small things, constant things. Coffee tasted different. Not bad, just off, like my taste buds remembered it being sweeter, or more bitter. I couldn't tell which. My handwriting looked slightly different. The way I made certain letters, the slant of my script. Photos from before Area 51 showed subtle variations. Or was I imagining it? Creating false tells because I wanted an explanation for the wrongness. I called my mother, talked to her for an hour, and she said something that made me freeze. "You sound different, Marcus. More formal? Like you're being careful with your words. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mom, just tired." "If you say so, but you don't sound like my son." I hung up, stared at the phone, thought about what she'd said. Did I sound different? Was my speech pattern changed? Or was my mother just noticing stress? Fatigue? Normal variations? Or was she right? Was I not her son? Was I an other who'd replaced Marcus Williams and successfully fooled the military but couldn't quite fool a mother who'd known her son for 32 years? I started keeping a journal, writing down everything I remembered about my life. Childhood memories. Training experiences. Deployments. All of it. Then I'd compare it to photos, documents, military records, looking for inconsistencies. And I found them, small ones, details that didn't quite match. A scar I didn't remember getting. A training exercise that records said I attended, but I had no memory of. A friend who insisted we'd served together in Afghanistan, but I couldn't recall his face. Were these normal memory gaps, the kind everyone has, or were they evidence that my memories were copies? Imperfect reconstructions of Marcus Williams' life? I contacted Thompson. Encrypted message, burner phone. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop in Denver, halfway between our new posts. He looked good, healthy, adjusted, like he'd moved on from Area 51, like he'd accepted whatever he was and was functioning fine. "You look terrible," he said. First thing. "Williams, have you slept?" "Not much." "Thompson, do you ever wonder if you're real?" "Every day, every hour. Every time I look in a mirror or hear my own voice or remember something from before. But I've learned to live with it." "How?" "By accepting that the question might not have an answer. I pass the tests. I have Marcus Williams' memories. I perform my duties competently, whether I'm the real Thompson or an other who replaced him. Functionally, there's no difference. I am who I am. Real or copy, I exist. I'm conscious. I matter. That's not good enough for me. Then you'll drive yourself insane. You'll spend the rest of your life questioning every memory, every sensation, every thought, and you'll never find certainty. Because certainty doesn't exist. Not anymore. Not after what we saw. He was right, but I couldn't accept it. couldn't live with the ambiguity, couldn't look in the mirror and not wonder if the face staring back was really mine. "Have you noticed anything?" I asked. "Small changes? Details that seem wrong?" Thompson hesitated. "Yeah, but I don't know if they're real changes or if I'm just hypersensitive now, creating false patterns because I'm looking for them." "Like what?" "My favorite food used to be pizza, pepperoni and mushroom. I have clear memories of ordering it all the time. But when I tried it last week, I hated it. The taste was wrong, and I found myself craving Thai food, which I have no memory of ever liking before." "Dimensional difference," I said. "In the mirror dimension, Thompson likes Thai food instead of pizza, and if you're that Thompson, then my preferences would be different." "I know. I thought of that. But it could also just be that my tastes changed. People's preferences shift over time. It doesn't mean I'm a dimensional copy. Or it means exactly that." We sat in silence. Two men, or two copies of men, trying to figure out if we were real, and failing. "I saw Vasquez last month," Thompson said. "She's not doing well. The uncertainty destroyed her. She can't work anymore, can't function. She spends all day researching quantum mechanics and parallel dimensions, trying to find a definitive test, something that would prove we're real or not, but she hasn't found anything." "And the other Vasquez?" "The one Reeves shot, just a body, confirmed dead. But was she the other, or was our Vasquez the other? No way to know. Both had the same memories. Both were equally certain they were real." I thought about Reeves. The other, who'd been with us all along. Integrated into the Rangers so perfectly that nobody suspected, until the paranoia drove him to kill. Or had the paranoia driven the real Reeves to kill? Had he been replaced, or had he always been another? Another question with no answer. "What do we do?" I asked Thompson. "How do we live like this? We keep serving, keep functioning, and we accept that we might never know. The alternative is madness." 6 months after Area 51, I'm still here. Still functioning, still serving. But the doubt never goes away. It's constant, pervasive, consuming. I look in the mirror every morning, study my face, search for signs that I'm not real, and sometimes, just for a moment, my reflection looks wrong. The eyes are slightly different. The smile doesn't quite match what I remember. The whole face seems like a mask I'm wearing rather than the face I was born with. But is that real? Or am I creating false perceptions because I'm desperate for an answer? I don't know. And that's the worst part. The not knowing. The perpetual uncertainty. The possibility that I'm an other who thinks he's Marcus Williams, who has his memories and believes them completely, who will live the rest of Marcus Williams' life without ever knowing he's not the original. Or maybe I am the original. Maybe I'm the real Williams who survived the breach and came back. Maybe the doubt is just psychological trauma. PTSD. Normal response to extraordinary circumstances. But how would I know the difference? Last week, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Me and Thompson, taken on level 12 of Area 51. Before everything fell apart. Before the paranoia consumed us. Before we questioned our own existence. And in the photo, our shadows are wrong. They're facing the wrong direction. Like we're standing in one dimension while our shadows belong to another. Was the photo manipulated? Is someone messing with me? Testing me? Or is it evidence that we were replaced earlier than we thought? That the Williams and Thompson who entered level 18 were already others? I keep the photo in my desk. Look at it sometimes. Study those wrong shadows. And wonder. The truth is, I'll never know if I'm real. None of us will. Everyone who went into Area 51. everyone who encountered others, everyone who survived. We'll spend the rest of our lives questioning, doubting, wondering if the thoughts in our heads are ours or just perfectly copied memories from someone else. And the terrifying thing? It might not matter. If another has all your memories, all your personality, all your skills and knowledge, are they really different from you, or are they you in a different form? Is identity tied to physical continuity or to consciousness and memory? I don't have answers, just questions. Endless, consuming questions. Sometimes I'll be doing something routine, making coffee, writing a report, talking to another soldier, and I'll pause. And for just a moment I'll think, is this what Marcus Williams would do? Or am I just performing what I think Marcus Williams would do based on copied memories? And that pause, that moment of doubt, might be the only thing proving I'm real. Because an other who fully believed they were Marcus Williams wouldn't pause, wouldn't question, would just be. Unless the doubt is also copied, unless the real Marcus Williams questioned himself this way, and I'm just another who inherited his neuroses along with his memories. There's no way to know, no test, no certainty, just the mirror, the reflection, the face that might or might not be mine. I look at it now, my reflection in the bathroom mirror, study every detail, search for proof that I'm real or that I'm not, and the face stares back. Neither confirming nor denying, just existing, just being. Am I Marcus Williams, or am I the other who replaced him? I don't know. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the question itself is the answer. Maybe in a world where others exist, where perfect copies walk among us with our memories and our faces, the distinction between real and copy becomes meaningless. Or maybe it's the only distinction that matters. I'll never know which. But here's what I do know. Somewhere in Area 51, the breach is sealed. The dimensional fold is closed. Others can no longer cross over. The threat, the immediate threat, is contained. But the others who already crossed? The ones who've been here for years, decades? They're still out there. Walking among us. Working beside us. Living full lives while their originals are gone forever. And they don't know they're others. They believe completely that they're real, that their memories are their own, that their existence is valid. Are they wrong? I used to think so. Used to believe there was a clear line between real and copy, between original and replacement. But now, after everything I've seen, every certainty I've lost, I'm not sure anymore. Maybe we're all others. Maybe the original versions of ourselves disappear the moment we change, evolve, grow, and what's left is just a copy with memories of who we used to be. Or maybe I'm just rationalizing, trying to make peace with the possibility that I'm not real, that I'm a dimensional copy who will never know the truth. Either way, the question remains, am I Marcus Williams? Or am I the other who thinks he is? And here's the question I need you to answer. Are you sure you're you? Look in the mirror. Does your face look exactly right, or is there something slightly off, something in the eyes? The smile, the way you hold yourself. Have you ever felt like you're performing your own life? Playing a role based on memories that might not be yours? Have you noticed small changes, preferences shifting, details that don't quite match what you remember? Because if others exist, if dimensional copies can cross over and replace people perfectly, then how do you know you're the original? How do you know you weren't replaced last week? Yesterday? 5 minutes ago? You don't, you can't, there's no test, no proof, just the certainty you feel, the belief that you're real. But others feel that same certainty, that same belief. And they're wrong. So maybe you are too, or maybe you're not. The only certainty is the question itself. Am I real? Are you